In this video, I'm just going to give you some additional examples from Unit 2.5. So this unit was all about risk reduction. One of the main mathematical ideas that you should focus on is that absolute and relative change can be difficult to interpret, especially when describing quantities that are represented as percentages. So in this situation, you looked at a group of individuals who had some sort of risk of heart attack based on their lifestyle. For example, group 1 had a 40% risk of heart attack, but they were given a drug that was supposed to help reduce their risk of heart attack by 50%. So what you should remember is that when we initially found the number of individuals that were expected to suffer a heart attack, we found 40% of the group of 500 people. That meant that 200 was the expected number of heart attacks for that particular group. So when we're giving that group the drug, the reference value was 200. So we were finding 50% of 200 to get the 100 people that were expected to suffer a heart attack after the drug. So we change the size of the group from the original 500, we bring it down to 200, and then we find the percentage of that. So let me give you another example. According to the CDC, U.S. adults have a 40% chance of developing type 2 diabetes over their lifetime. Suppose a group of 15,980 U.S. adults adapt to a lifestyle of diet and exercise that is said to lower the risk of developing type 2 diabetes by 16%. How many of those adults would you expect to benefit from this change in lifestyle? So we want to think about that question as how many would be saved from getting type 2 diabetes if they adapt to this lifestyle. We're going to round our final answer to the nearest whole number. All right, so here's one step-by-step approach. We can first find 40% of the entire group, 40% of 15,980, by changing the 40% to 0.40, multiplying it by 15,980 to get 6,392. Now this represents the number of adults who would get type 2 diabetes without changing their lifestyle. Now we're going to take 16% of this number. So 16% of these people who are expected to have a risk of getting type 2 diabetes is now going to adapt to that lifestyle. So we're taking 16% and they are being now saved from getting type 2 diabetes. So 16% of 6,392 would be 1,022.72, and if we round that to the nearest whole number, it would be 1,023. Now this represents the number of adults that will no longer get type 2 diabetes because of their lifestyle change. So just another way to think about that same question by thinking of it as one expression as opposed to two steps. Here we did two multiplications, right? We multiplied by 40% or 0.40, and then we took that answer and we multiplied it again by 16% or 0.16. So we can take those two steps and write them as one expression. 16% of 40% of the group of people, the 15,980. So writing that as 0.16 times 0.40 times 15,980. You can perform that multiplication in any order that you want. You could do it from left to right. You can multiply the 40% times the 15,980 first, like we did above. No matter how you do it, you'll still get the same result, 1,023 people. So we could think about that by just focusing on the 16% of the 40%. So we could think about 16 of 40%. Multiply just the percentages would give us 0.064, which is equivalent to 6.4%. That means that 6.4% of that group are expected to develop type 2 diabetes after changing their lifestyle. And excuse me, we should say are not expected. Let's change that for a second. So 6.4% of the 15,980 are no longer expected to develop type 2 diabetes after changing their lifestyle. Remember, we were reducing that risk. So that's the number of people that are being saved by adapting to this new lifestyle of diet and exercise. Right? So they are no longer expected to develop type 2 diabetes. All right, so let's bring this back to absolute and relative change. So 1,023 people are no longer expected to develop type 2 diabetes. So it's a decrease of 1,023 people, right? We're reducing the risk, we're reducing the number of people developing this disease. You could also think about that as negative. Instead of saying a decrease, you can say it's an absolute change. Can't type and talk. The absolute change of negative 1,023 people. So if you put the negative, you don't have to say the word decrease, and if you leave out the negative, you have to have the decrease there. We could also think about the relative change. The relative change is the 16% that we were given, right? That's what the lifestyle is doing. It's changing the number of people by 16%, and it's lowering the number of people by 16%. So we could say that the 16% of the people who are expected to develop type 2 diabetes will no longer get the disease. You could also think about that as a negative 16%. It's a negative 16% change. And so again, we're going to see that we'll be relating a lot of the different topics in the next few units back to absolute and relative change. So this is just one particular context where we see those ideas represented again. I think that if you really focus on this example, as far as the calculation is concerned, either doing it in 2 steps or doing it in 1 step, I think this would be a really good example for you to help you prepare for the questions on the assessment.